Hallo,
Middag sê julle, hoe gaan dit daarso?
dankie met meneer.
Want ek sit nu nie op campus nie, in die klaskamer en soos julle weet is dit redelik koelerig buite en as daar 'n ligte stormpie op pad na die Kaap toe en ek sit reg onder die aircon wat op hoeveel minus wat ook al gestel is en ek kry nie ding af uitwerk.
Dankie.
Ek vrek van die koue as ek hier so sit, maar andersins gaan dit oké.
Nee, maar ons het laas semester met ons klasse dieselfde probleem gehad. Met van die klasse se aircons wat so minus weet jy wat nie en jy sit met dik baadjies aan later aan.
Ja, en
Ons het baie daai probleem gehad.
dan in Februarie maand dan werk dit nie.
Ja.
Dan sit weer plus 25, so.
Ja man, hulle mors krag so.
Ek weet nie hoe dit werk op hierdie stadium nie, maar as ek nie môre longontsteking het nie, dan sal ek nou seker nooit dit kry nie, maar dit voel vir my op hierdie stadium omtrent of dit gaan gebeur. Maar andersins, almal van julle sommerie, het ek nou mee gechat. Hoe gaan dit dan met Annika en Sidi en Christian? Is julle als onder beheer?
Ja,
All good,
meneer.
meneer.
Good. Hoe klink die klank vandag?
Baie beter.
Ek sit in 'n klaskamer wat 'n router in hom het. Ek dink
Wow.
dit maak so 'n bietjie van 'n verskil. Ek is so 'n bietjie nader aan die hotspot hierso. Net om terugvoer te gee vir julle, ek het vinnig voor my vorige klas begin het Juffrou Thomas hier by my verbygestap en toe die eerste keer wat ek haar gesien het vandag, toe sê sy vir my nee, dit kan slegs 'n foutjie gewees het. Sy het môre dubbelperiode met julle en dan is Vrydag weer dubbelperiode. So definitief nie nou hierdie sessie nie. So as daar 'n e-pos uitgegaan het en 'n announcement of 'n announcement het verwys na vandag 12:20 toe, dan is dit bloot 'n tikfout gewees. Dit is nie so nie. Die rooster is reg en hy werk so. Julle sien haar môre 12:20, ja.
Baie dankie.
Okay. Luister, hoe gaan dit andersins met julle? Voor ek nou hierso die screen gaan share met die wonderlike hoofstuk 13 wat gaan oor recruitment en al daai nice goedjies en hoe om aansoek te doen vir 'n werk. As daar nog werk is in hierdie land en hoe die stappe wat julle die ou deur gaan en dan ook natuurlik sodat julle kan julle assignment behoorlik voltooi. So enige ander vrae voor ons aangaan met dit?
Ten spyte van my streslevel het ek besluit om net vanoggend bietjie terug te staan. So ek gaan nou vanmiddag aangaan. Ek het net 'n break gekort.
Weet jy wat, ek dink ek het met een van my kollegas hier gesels nou so 'n halfuur terug toe ons gesukkel het in die klaskamer nommer 1 om die rekenaar weer in gang te kry. Iets was nie lekker geweest nie. Ek praat nou van die desktop wat in die klaskamer is. En alternatiefelik het meneer Webb toe kom help van IT af en toe ons dit reg gekry het, toe werk die projektor nie so. Ja, ek sou sê daar's allerlei klein challenges elke dag en nuwe verrassingkies. Maar ek dink weer eens, dit toets ons, maar dit beteken ook dat dit gaan nou nie te bad nie. Ons kom om deur elke toets. Ons maak elke dag 'n fout en ons maak die fout reg. So gesê, gister se goedjies is opgelaai vir julle. So al wat ek nog moet doen is ek het net nie uitgekom daarby nie. Ek wil nog die pre-recording doen wat ek die rubriek opsit vir die assignment. Maar dit sal ek later vandag 'n tydjie kry voor. Ek het nou, dis my laaste klas vir die dag hierdie, so ek het 'n bietjie meer buigbaarheid as daar niets anders voorval nie. So Nee, julle ek dink hierdie hoofstuk spesifiek en die relevantie van hierdie hoofstuk lê in die feit dat daar is 5 spesifieke en ek gaan sommer net gaan na een slide tot daai volgende slide. Daar's 5 spesifieke stappe waardeur normaalweg 'n werksaansoek beweeg. Jy is 'n besigheid en as ons dit kan in deeltyd, kom ons sê, in verband bring met julle assignment wat gaan oor die finansiële adviseursposisie by Sanlam, dan gaan jy as 'n eerste stap gaan jy sit en jy moet besluit wat moet hierdie vriend wat aansoek doen kan doen. Wat spesifiek het jy nodig van hom? So jy gaan jou job description, jou werksbeskrywing gaan jy ontwerp sodat daar baie duidelik is wanneer hy waar moet wees, wat hy moet doen, aan wie moet hy verslag gee en daar gaan ek terug na die vorige bladsy toe wat sê of die volgende bladsy toe wat sê vorige bladsy althans wat sê dat daar is belangrike faktore hoekom 'n mens 'n sekere proses volg. Ekskuus tog. Die feit en omdat die onderwerp sales en ops is, een van die grootste challenges dink ek lê in die feit dat personeel is een van die of laat ek so stel, die 2 grootste faktore wat 'n bydra of wat 'n komponent is in enige besigheid se begroting is nommer 1 sy personeel en dan tweedens jou vaste kostes. As jy huur, dan jou huur. As die gebou joune is, dan daai paaiement wat jy moet betaal aan die bank totdat die gebou heeltemal afbetaal is. Daai vaste uitgawes. Dit maak die grootste komponente op in 'n besigheid. En gewoonlik is die industrie riglyn wat gegee word vir 'n begroting. As jou personeel se salarisse so in die omgewing van 30 na 35% toe is van jou totale begroting, dan is jy okay. Sodra dit begin 35 en meer raak, dan raak dit 'n groot issue want jy kan nie net mense ontslaa raak van nie. En dit hang natuurlik af ook van besigheid tot besigheid, maar sodra jou salarisrekening, dit wat jy uitgee basies en betaal vir die mense wat vir jou werk, te hoog raak, dan loop jy in 'n rooi, dan gaan daar 'n paar rooi vlaggies op en loop jy in 'n rigting waar jy binnekort in dryfsand gaan wees. En vir daai spesifieke rede is dit belangrik dat jy die regte persone kry om die werk te doen. En dis hoekom jy deur 'n spesifieke seleksieproses gaan. Selection of the candidate or the most suited candidate for the vacancy that you have is extremely important because it's going to save you a lot of money. You can just imagine if you appoint somebody who's not properly qualified, he has all the other skills that you require. You're going to spend a lot of money in training that individual because his formal qualifications did not meet the minimum criteria. Although you will continuously train him or her, because training or continuous training is essential in any business, or training of the staff is essential in any business. The fact, however, is especially salespeople who put a lot of hours in is a very expensive component of a business, and therefore it's important to select the right candidate from the start. Ek gaan net gou vir myself verskoon, ek wil gehoes, ek wil nie in 'n hoes by gaan hier op Zoom nie. Gee my net so 'n sekond of 2. Right. Ek moes gou vinnig aan buite gaan hoes, en anders het julle dalk sein verloor hier, want dit is 'n redelike hoesie gewees. Het lyk maar die longontsteking is nou al nader op pad na hierdie eisige aircon episode wat ek nou besig is om te ervaar. So kom ons gaan terug na die stappe. Die eerste stap is om die job description op te stel. Dan gaan jy identifiseer watter bronne gaan jy gebruik om nou die letterlik jou prospecting te doen om te gaan soek vir die regte kandidaate. Wanneer jy by daai punt gekom het, dan moet jy natuurlik ook 'n behoorlike aansoekvorm ontwerp sodat jy die regte inligting kry van die kandidaat of kandidaate wat jy dan op 'n kortlys wil stel. Sodra jy die kortlys opgestel het, gaan jy by die interview self uitkom En dan kan mense ook op hierdie punt, as jy nog steeds nie seker is nie, of daar is dalk 1 of 2 kandidate wat ongelooflik na aan mekaar is en jy kan regtig nie onderskei tussen wie van die 2 persone jy moet aanstel nie, maar jy kan ook nie bekostig om al 2 aan te stel nie. Gebruik jy addisionele sekondêre bronne van buite die maatskappy byvoorbeeld om die persone of die 2 kandidate te onderskei. So kom ons kyk nou na elk van hierdie spesifiek faktore individueel. Eerste een obviously is die werksbeskrywing, the job description itself. What does this what is necessary for this people? What are the essential elements of the work activities that this individual will have to perform for you? It is very important because later on it can create, if you weren't clear from the start on what you expect from the individual, it can result in very bad relationship between management and staff. It could also result in situations where the person says, but I never know and I was never told that this is my responsibility. So you also don't have grounds to then get rid of that individual because that will be unfair dismissal and then you're leaving yourself up for a lot of litigation. So it is important then when you do the job description that you're as thorough as possible. And in the job description, it should definitely make very clear what the position's job title is. In the case of your assignment, it's a financial advisor. It's quite clear. It still doesn't tell you what's required to do, but it tells you what your title will be. So if somebody asks you, and when you print your business cards, it will say financial advisor. So that's the first start. Your duties, responsibilities, be very clear and very thorough on exactly what it is. And then also important, who do you report to? Because if you report to somebody, if you do something, and if you do your job, but you inform the wrong people that you have done your job, then you might as well not have done your job. So it is very important that you ensure that the line of communication is clear to the candidate before that person takes the job. Most of these things, as I said, it appears in your job description, and when that final candidate have been selected and have been appointed, in their initial induction training, this comes up again and is clarified by the supervisor of this of the new employee. So that's why it's very important that when the duties and responsibilities are initially listed in the job description, that they are repeated, and even in some cases that you add a bit more and embroider on what was in the job description when you do your induction training with the new employee. Technical requirements obviously need to be in there as well. There must be a minimum required, like for instance a degree or certificate or diploma, whatever your criteria is, and that's usually up for the discretion of the employee who's advertising the job. Where are you going to be working? Are you going to be required to travel a lot? Are you going to be required to travel internationally? All these things are important because the candidate who will be looking at this job will probably, and it often happens, and when it gets to that little section where it says any other personal interests and hobbies, I like reading, I like hiking, I like traveling. Okay, right? You said one of your hobbies is that you like traveling, but then when you get to the job description, and the job description requires you to travel a lot for business, you say, no, I'm not going to do that. So be very sure that you are clear on where the person has to operate from, the flexibility if it's not necessarily an office-bound job 5 days a week, and then already you will have addressed a lot of very important issues even before you started with the recruitment. So the more detail and the thorougher you are with your job description, and the specifications regarding the minimum requirements that's necessary for the candidates who will be considered, is is the battle half won. The more time spent at this initial stage is actually beneficial in the future. As it says that the job description will act as a blueprint for the personal specifications. Right, before we go to the next step, anybody any questions at this stage? Everybody still awake?
Yep.
Dis mos middagete, maar dis fyn. Julle kan mos maar middagete eet terwyl julle Zoom.
Nee, in klas hier.
Julle mag net nie braai nie. Ek kan dit ryk hoor as julle braai terwyl ons Zoom. Ek het 'n ek het dit neus vir 'n braai hoor.
Meneer gaan net vrieskas ryk.
Wanneer ons insluit 'n spesifieke persoonlike detail van elke kandidaat. Ons kyk na die vorige een, dan het ons gesê ons wil graag hê dat die individu moet ten minste 'n graad of 'n diploma hê en maar nou gaan jy na meer spesifieke detail toe soos voorkoms. Jy hou nie van mense met studs in hulle lywe nie op enige plek, of dis okay as jy het, solank dit net nie op 'n sigbare liggaamsdeel is nie. Daai moet baie duidelik gemaak word in die werksbeskrywing, dat jy stel sekere persoonlike standaarde ook vir jou personeel, en dit is net om seker te maak dat daar's nie eenvormigheid, want anderster ons weet in sommige gevalle as jy vir party mense die puntjie gee, dan gaan jy die hele arm verloor. So maak seker dat die persoonlike detail en spesifikasies is ook ingesluit in die werksbeskrywing, want aan die einde van die dag wil jy nie kom tot daai proses waar jy deur alles is, die kandidaat is fantastiese, dis dit lyk soos die regte persoon, en dan kom jy by die interview en dan vra jy oor die persoon se brei uit op sekere van die vereistes wat jy het, en dan sê die persoon, maar weet wat nou, ek is nou pas so 6 maande terug getroud, so ek weet nie of so baie reis vir werk 'n goeie ding is nie. Jy weet wat, daai moes nou al vroeg in die jobbeskrywing ingewees het, en nie net vir om jou tyd en kostes te spaar na opsig nie, maar ook uit die oë van die kandidaat. Die persoon gaan ons nou weet, as dit 'n issue is vir hom, gaan hy nie vir daai werk aansoek doen as daar verwag word dat daar baie gereis word nie. En as daai persoon aan 'n kans vat en sê maar ek gee nie om nie, en wanneer jy vir hom of haar op die spot sit, dan sê hulle, weet jy wat, dit is eintlik 'n issue, dan weet jy, daai kandidaat kan nie oorweeg word nie. Jy gaan vir jouself onmoontlik baie probleme in die toekoms op die hals haal as jy nie duidelik is oor die spesifieke persoonlike vereistes van die kandidaate nie. En of dit nou mans kan nog nie swanger raak nie, maar mans kan kwalifiseer vir kraamverlof of maternity leave, en uit die aard van die saak, die vrou wat 'n werknemer is en swanger raak, kry dan ook maternity leave, maar maak seker vooraf dat onder andere dit duidelik gestel word ook in jou werksbeskrywing, dat jy voorsien vir kraamverlof of maternity leave, en dan ook wat is die terme daarvan. Met ander woorde, dis 30 dae voordat jou kraamdatum is en is vir 3 maande na jy gekraam het wat jy volle salaris sal kry en so wees baie spesifiek, want dit kan nogal 'n baie netelige saakie raak. Dan verder ook maak seker dat jy die ergens in hierdie seksie sluit jy ook in die waardes van die maatskappy soal verskuil in sekere van jou spesifikasies wat jy persoonlik verwag van die kandidaate. Om te kan sien of hulle sal inpas die hele tyd. As daar baie werksfunksies is wat deel is van jou van jou besigheid se kultuur om 'n goeie verhouding te bou tussen al die verskillende werknemers, dan en dit is als verpligte funksies, dit moet voor die tyd uitgeklaar word, maar jy kry persone wat eenvoudig net nie vir hierdie werksfunksies gemaak is nie, of nie baie daarvan hou nie. Die feit van die saak is, dit moet aanvanklik reeds in die werksbeskrywing, moet dit byvoorbeeld duidelik gestel word, dat daar gaan verwag word vir jou om maatskappyfunksies by te woon, en as die persoon dit nie wil doen nie, dan aan die einde van die dag, is dit in die werksbeskrywing. As dit later 'n probleem raak, dan kan dit gronde wees vir die persoon waarskuwing te gee, en dan miskien ontslag van werk en so aan. Dit gaan gewoonlik nie so ver nie, maar die feit van die saak is, wees eerder baie spesifiek en sluit baie detail in hierdie gedeelte in, wanneer ons die werksbeskrywing doen, om pyn in die toekoms te vermy. Die volgende stap wat gevolg gaan word, is ons gaan nou besluit, maar waar gaan ons nou kandidate kry? Nou daar is 5 spesifieke hoofgroepe waar mense gewoonlik gaan soek, or where recruiting happens. We can recruit from the inside, and now that we have become part of the Stadio multi-university group, I know that over the last couple of months there were a lot of positions that were advertised, but it was only done internally. So they were looking at moving staff within the 4 or 5 colleges that will be part of Stadio from January next year, to ensure that they give the current staff the first opportunity for either a job promotion or a different job, but to keep their jobs. And that is a very sound policy, because you've already built a particular relationship with and have a track record of work experience with particular individuals that work for you. So if you employ them elsewhere in your company, when vacancies pop up, then it's always good if that can happen. It does not always happen, because you can't move an IT guy all of a sudden into human resources or into marketing. He might be good at both or all 3, but the fact is, it will raise eyebrows of other people in the company. So it still has to be, the individual must still be capable of doing the particular job. So it's not just moving people around in a company for the sake of it. But recruiting from inside is a huge bonus if that can be the case. Using recruitment agencies is very popular. If you go on to you basically can type in vacancies in Cape Town, or sales vacancies in Cape Town, or marketing positions available in Durbanville, whatever, and immediately on Google it will pop up a list of opportunities. All of those opportunities are placed there with the logo of the company that offers the job, but it is linked to an agency that manages that on their behalf. So there's nobody sitting at Sanlam who's looking at, who has designed the job description. They design the job description, they give it to an agency, the agency puts it on the internet. When you apply for the position, you are going to go through the agency in the first place. You don't necessarily always know that you're going through the agency, because the application form, which we'll get to in the next step, is the one that you will see on the job description. There's a job description. Let's say, for instance, you go onto the internet and it says financial advisor position, Sanlam, gives you everything that you have in your assignment in the text, and then there's a little block at the bottom that says apply now, and if you click that button, you will go to the next page, which will be a page that looks like an application form, where you have to populate certain blocks with personal information, age, name, surname, email address, contact details, stuff like that. And then also offering you the opportunity to upload the PDF version of your CV. And then if you submit that, from there it goes to the company who actually has the vacancy. And they will say, no, we like this candidate, and then they will inform the agency. The agency will contact you back and say, listen, you've been shortlisted for this, and from there on, the company who actually then has the position available will be in touch with the candidate. And in return for that, there's a commission that the recruitment agencies get. But it saves the company who has the vacancy a lot of trouble, because they're working through experts who know exactly what they're looking for and almost sort of pre-qualify the candidates before they get to you. Educational institutions is also a very nice source to use, because if I used to do that, or Virgin Active used to do that with my college previously, and they came to us every year, and they had a day where they spoke to the final year students who were graduating in 2 months' time. They gave me all the different job opportunities that's available. They took their details, so they were put onto a database. So there's already an example of how companies go to tertiary institutions and source from there, because they know that those people with the minimum qualification that they require would be graduating from those institutions within the next couple of months. It's a very popular medium that is used by many companies. Your competitors, obviously, if you have been dealing with a specific individual and you see amazing qualities in them and you think, oh, geez, I actually wish this guy could work for me. Don't try and steal that person from the other company. You can get into hot water, but there's absolutely no reason why you cannot offer them something. It's common practice that it happens that these kind of key personnel are being headhunted by big companies. If you're a top salesman at Toyota for the last 3 years, then there will be other dealerships and other brands who will also be looking to get your services. So it's not common practice, but it does happen. And then you can actually find from other industries. You can also use as a resource. For instance, if you are looking at recruiting a marketer, then you might go to a marketing company whose business is marketing. That's what they do every single day, and ask them if there might be anybody that they don't necessarily want to get rid of, but if there's anybody that might be looking at alternative opportunities, or you work with a company and you ask them if it's fine, if it's possible, if you can send them detail about a job vacancy that will become available, and if there's anybody in their company that they think might qualify and that might recommend it, because you sometimes get a company or companies where a person has reached a particular the ceiling in their job. They cannot be promoted to a high level, and they still have 20 very good years left in them, and they start becoming less productive because they know that they can't advance any further. They are the ones who might be looking at going to a different organization in a different industry, do the same kind of job that they do, but just do it for another company. So that's also a possibility, because you don't want to have somebody working there for 20 years who's treating it as a retirement job. Right, step number 3, designing an effective application form and preparing a shortlist. The application form is a quick and inexpensive method of screening the applicants, and to produce a short list of candidates is essential for you to plan for your interviewing sessions. So the job application form, people, I know it's one of the questions in your assignment as well. There are so many things that you, or so many websites that you can go to and find free downloadable templates for a job application, a job description, a business plan, a budget. So surf a bit on the internet if you want to find a specific template which you for your assignment can then just populate, but also to give you an idea of what should be included in an application form. As I said, because mostly applications are now done online, when you get to that second page where you populate it with your personal details, that is actually the application form. They will also then give you an opportunity to add and include or attach your PDF format CV. The application form is straightforward, but again, the application form should not be the application form should not replace the interview. The application form mustn't be a 5-page document, because people want to quickly give their detail. They want to sit back and they want to hear from the companies if they're interested in them or not. They don't want to give the whole life story on an application form, because what's left in the interview then? Then the interview is basically just, oh, okay, now I can put a face to the name, and thank you, you've been successful, or sorry, we not interested, and then you go, or you sign, and you're appointed. So it's not too much detail in the application form, but make sure that you get your personal detail and especially your contact detail of the candidates. The categories, we've got 10 minutes left in the session, people, and then, as I said, we will then just join again to finish the session. It's not, there's not too much left, but I don't think we'll finish it in 10 minutes though. And I also want to allow some questions or time for questions. What should be in an application form? And the 4 main categories that you have to gather information on in an application form is personal details. Personal details like your name, your address, your phone numbers, your email addresses and stuff like that. Your education. Don't give me, in grade 7, I was the Dux student or learner. Grade 8, my average for history was 90% for all my exams the whole year. They're not interested. They're interested that you finish school. So when it comes to school, basics. Where you graduated and when you graduated from school. When did you matriculate and from what school? Nothing more than that. Qualifications, excuse me, qualifications a bit more though. Qualifications, you need to embroider a bit. And if your highest qualification is a master's degree, don't just say you've got a master's degree in business management. To get to a master's, everybody knows that you have to do the BCom first and then do the honors and then the master's. You have to list those as well. The reason for that is because the companies who are advertising the position want to know if there are gaps in your timeline. For instance, you did, let's look at my own personal timeline as an example. I was a first-year student in 1983. I enrolled for a 3-year course, so I finished in 1985. I was a first year in 1983. I graduated with my bachelor's in 1985. In 1986, I did my honors. In 1987, I started my master's. In 1988, I graduated and completed my master's degree. Now, for the business can then see that I studied for a consecutive period of time. There's no gaps in that particular market or in that particular timeline. In other words, you did your BCom, then you worked for 3 years, and then you did your honors, and. So they want to know, because that allows them an opportunity for questions as to why did you not, if you eventually end up with a master's degree, did not do that in succession. There are various reasons. And I went overseas for a year, and that's why I did my master's for over a 2-year period, because I worked in London and I continued my studies and did my case studies for my thesis on businesses specifically in London. So I was still busy with my studies, but it was abroad. I was still enrolled as a full-time student, but usually a master's degree can take you anything up to 3 years. I completed mine in 2, and that's one of the other reasons why this information is important to a future employer. They want to know that the student completed the 3-year degrees in 3 years and didn't take 5 years to complete their bachelor's, for instance. And if they did, what was the reasons? So in this case, it is in the case of your qualifications, be specific and list all your qualifications. Don't leave anything out, but also make it relevant. If you're applying for a cricket coaching position and you have a level 3 international cricket qualification and you have an HED, so you're a teacher as well, but you also have a BCom, none of those others are relevant. They're interested in your cricket qualification. So if the position requires you to have a level 3 qualification to become that cricket coach or get that job as a cricket coach, that's going to be the minimum, and that's what you will have to put in. any additional qualifications is a bonus, but that's the bonus and some of the the aces that you have up your sleeve that you leave for the interview. That is important to list not just all the qualifications, but specifically all the qualifications relevant to the position you are applying for. Your employment history must be very clear and specific as well. Make sure that you say what your position was, what your specific duties and responsibilities was at that particular job. I was a waiter at Bossa in Durbanville, and my responsibilities were to also work out the shifts for all the waiters. So you're not just a waiter, you're a head waiter. Okay. Sometimes you have to do some inventory as well and then take stock. And that means that you're almost the assistant manager. So make sure that you get the correct description of your position and the exact duties that you have to do. And if the duties required you to do something that you didn't like, include it. Well, I don't really like working on Sundays, but the fact is my job required me to work on Sundays. The fact is that must be in there. Don't spare any details in that regard. Military service is not something that I think is too applicable for most positions nowadays, but it was a number of years ago. Not that have you done it, but the fact that they want to know if it's a male applicant, if they have done their national service or not, because if they haven't, at some point, they will be called up to do that service because it was compulsory. But those times have changed, so that's not a relevant issue anymore. And under other interests, when you list here what you want in the application from the applicant, make sure that you guide them a bit. Ask them, don't just say any other interest, because any other interest can be anything. They can tell you, oh yeah, you know what, I like collecting seashells and stuff like that. That's, yeah, okay, good for you. The fact is, you've got to be specific here and give them categories. Tell them, are you a member at certain societies? Are you a member at certain, do you have membership at certain institutions? Like for instance, if you're applying for the financial advisor position, are you maybe a qualified accountant and therefore you are a member of the CA Society of South Africa? The sports that you do you do sports? I mean, what are your hobbies? Hiking, traveling, reading, whatever. So be specific and give them categories of other interests. Yes, CJ, wat kan ek vir jou doen?
Meneer, ek wil geweet, so sê nou maar, jy is swart, né? En die dop of dan maak het obviously ook 'n gap in je timeline, want obviously jy swart, daai moet dan extra by dan aan die einde.
Ja, en dit is nie nodig om suksesskaam te wees oor daai inligting en dit te weerhou van die persoon nie. Ek sal dit insit byvoorbeeld, want as dit nie deel is van die inligting wat jy gee in jou application vorm nie, dan gaan dit op 'n stadium uitkom in 'n interview, want die werkgewer wat werklik die CV's deeglik bestudeer, gaan optel dat daar is 'n gap gewees. Ek was gelukkig, ek het wel ook na my jaar 1, alhoewel ek nog steeds my graad in 3 jaar gekry het, was ek vir 6 maande het ek gewerk. Ek moes gaan werk want my pa het sy werk verloor en hy kon nie my studies verder betaal nie. En ek moes gaan werk om geld te maak en gelukkig kon ek van die vakke opvang oor die volgende jaar en 'n half. So ek kon nog steeds in 3 jaar my graad kry, maar die feit van die saak is dit het nie my tydlyn beïnvloed nie. Maar as dit jou tydlyn beïnvloed, dan is dit fyn, jy weet, maar jy gaan dit wel insit, ja, verseker. En die feit van die saak is, daar's soveel redes. Die feit dat as jy sê net maar 'n jaar gedop het, daar was redes hoekom dit gedoen is. En dit is deel van om vas te stel of jy die regte kandidaat is vir die werk. Het jy net die hele jaar geparty of was daar, kom ons sê, 'n familiekrisis of wat ook al? Daar's soveel faktore wat 'n invloed kan gehad het op hoekom dit gebeur het. Ekskuus tog?
Ek sê of so sê nou maar, daar was dood in die familie en dan belewer jy bevestiging daarvan of so.
Presies. So dis nie inligting oor skaam te wees nie, en dis inligting wat actually baie waardevol is vir 'n werknemer. Ek sien ons het bietjie 'n minuut, so ek gaan hierdie stukkie gou stop en dan join ons gou weer, hoor.
Maak so. Cheers meneer.
Nou kan julle al sien nou weer.